Hello everyone, welcome back to Megon 2. Today we have a large number of videos for a more recent problem that has arisen in the United States, and it concerns student loans. I'm going to start with a disclaimer on this. In the UK, our system is not like the Americans. You, the Americans, and this isn't a dig, this is a reality, have some systems in your country that are remarkably predatory in nature. This would include student loans, health insurance, bank mortgages, in fact, anything where you have to take money or put money into something. Yeah, it's just the nature of what your country is. It's why lawsuits are quite common. In my country, it is a bit more regulated. There used to be a system in place that after X number of years in my country, your loan would be forgiven. It would no longer be a thing. This is not something I support. That may seem a bit strange for somebody who sits on a lower income scale, but as far as I'm concerned, if you take the loan out, the responsibility is yours. If you're old enough to vote, you're old enough to put some time into understanding basic finances. This is why, though, the American side of things usually gets ripped on. There's a pensioner comedian who made a joke on stage by simply starting with, "So I just finished paying off my student loan," an accurate summation for the kind of system you have where universities are more businesses. Right, okay. We're going to go through some videos of responses to a recent change where it doesn't matter how long you've been out of university for. If you owe money, you're paying the money. National debt is a big problem in many countries. If you don't pull your weight, you are just compounding the problem. So let's dive in.
I'm not paying back my student loans. I do not care. Oh, but what about your credit score? What am I going to do with a good credit score? Buy a house on starvation wages? Buy a car I can't afford to insure? I'm not paying them back. I don't give a shit about my credit score. Oh, they're going to garnish your wages. Most of us are underemployed. If they start taking additional money out of my paycheck, I just won't work. My life will not get worse.
Garnishing your wages is the inevitable, response. My query now is, why did you go to college in the first place, and why are you still not trying to go down that route? When I went to university, I remember students telling me outright the only reason they went was because tuition was low, price-wise. At that point it was $3,000 a year, it's now over $9,000. It changed near the later end of my tenure at Norwich University, back when it was good. A good university, that is. They just wanted the degree for the sake of it, and many of them did not enter any field that was remotely relevant, which speaks volumes about the nature of the business that is a university. A lot of parents scrimp and save in the US to send their children to university or college. If you're taking out loans to go to college and then not doing anything with it, you are still responsible for what you did to get you that far. Of course, a payment plan will be preferred, but let's face it here, if you've taken the decision to not pay it, well, they're going to take it from you, and yes, your credit score will be harmed. You may be a bit nihilistic right now, but reality is later on in your life, when you're a bit older, because you're quite young, you whippersnappers will have to learn the harsh lesson of when you actually do get someone in your life, you can't go much further because of the choices you made to be irresponsible. And yes, I'm looking down a little bit on people who take out these loans. We'll get to more into this more when we get further into this video with more clips. On that note,
if you are a student loan borrower and you are in default as of 2020 when the COVID program stopped everything from being collected on, your wages are going to get garnished starting May 5th. No, I'm not kidding. The jokes truly write themselves, but the Trump administration has said that they're going to start garnishing wages of all the borrowers that are specifically in default. And when the COVID program happened, about 5 million people were in default. And I'm sure that once we all have to start actually paying back our loans, a lot of us are going to go into default. Of course, they're just pushing us to, get income-driven payment plans. And
a payment plan is not the worst idea in the world if and only if the interest rate is tackled. If you're barely able to pay the interest, you're being hamstrung from the offset and your life is being stymied to the tune of decades. Of course, that should act as an incentive for some to seek to be more, to go further, to prosper, succeed. Then you can really make a dent in these loans, because then you're paying back for what you took to get you to where you go in your career. But just having a quaint title that says, "I am this type of executive," is nothing if you're paying off massive interest rates. It's quite predatory, isn't it? I feel like I've said that already. To the next one.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but if you are celebrating Trump beginning collections on federal student loans, it is not only f***ed up, but you are not standing on principle. You're not. I'm sorry. You are celebrating people's suffering. Actually, I'm not sorry. Let me amend that. You are celebrating people's suffering, and you are not just saying, oh, yeah, it's good for you. It builds character, and if I had to do it, you should. No, you are sentencing someone to being labeled as a criminal, to have debt collection hanging over their heads, to have their wages garnished.
If you took out a federal loan, you should pay the loan back. The word loan is quite important. I will celebrate it because then it's a part of that whole not wasting money on clowns who don't take responsibility for their choices. Although I'm English, so me celebrating is very much from afar. If you went and got a degree with the money you got from the federal government is well within its right to ask for the money back. There is no forgiveness here. It's a loan for a reason. You are an informed adult, and I'll happily celebrate people having their wages garnished if they're not taking responsibility or engaging in the correct discourse or following the procedure to pay back, or seek to pay back when able. It should of course be means assessed. I'm not stupid enough to think everyone should just pay everything back immediately. Nothing worth doing is easy after all, and this is a process that requires consideration, and a modicum of compassion as well.
Y'all, they're about to start garnishing people's wages whose student loans are in default. No, I'm not fucking kidding. I'm sorry. I know that there is a literal fucking avalanche of news happening at every moment and that every goddamn headline is a breaking news headline, but this is really serious and people need to know because it could ruin people's lives. And of course, the Trump administration doesn't give a
I think you'll find the Trump administration does care, and where they care is that because there was a pause during COVID, that pause should no longer be in effect. It makes sense to start up, and for you guys that took out these loans should pay them back. It's not overly complicated at that point now, is it? I do think that, again, it's not the most difficult subject matter to discuss, but crying victim here is not going to do you guys any favour. And by the way, there are dozens of videos of students, former students, people who are not doing as well as they could have done with the degrees they got, or succeeded as far as they wish they had succeeded, that's a better way of phrasing it, crying about it on TikTok, thinking that they're going to get some sympathy. I promise you the court of public opinion's not on your side. The court of public opinion takes the perspective that university or college is not a human right. It's not something that should be given freely away. Therefore, if you wanted further education because further education is meant to take you somewhere else, and you didn't use it, or you didn't pay back the loans, after taking out all these loans, which you made the executive decision to get because they were the best options for you at the time, then chances are you're going to be punished in some way.
Well, they just dropped the student loan bomb. They are really just trying to absolutely cripple as many people as possible at this point. It's pretty clear they want us completely broke. They don't give a about our health. They don't really give a shit if we die. Yeah, they're just gonna cut everything. This really just paves the path for so much more bullshit.
So I did a little digging to learn a bit more about this. There are 42 million Americans holding loans. Federal education debt exceeded 1.6 trillion US dollars. There could be roughly 10 million borrowers in default within a few months, according to the Trump administration. Now, what payments can be garnished would be federal tax refunds, wages, and Social Security, retirement, and disability benefits. There is a limit to how much they can take, though, because you have to leave somebody with at least $750 a month. So as for Social Security, by the way, they can take up to 15% of that. You could lose your entire tax refund from the federal government, unless it's already been paid out this year. Wages can be garnished also up to 15% of your disposable pay, without a court order. I know right now, because I've done enough videos on people complaining about the cost of living, this is not a good sign right now. It's why you have to be productive and proactive. And I don't mean productive working more hours knowing you're barely getting paid for it. I mean trying to get a better job, which sounds really callous, but you have to be involved, and being productive and proactive, also working with those that you are owing money to. Again, this is a harsh reality of adulting. The very concept of struggling is something humanity has had to deal with since society existed, let's face it. There's always been a struggle, and there will never not be a time where they exist. Or don't exist. Right, something like that.
So today Trump started talking about how he's going to force us to start paying back our student loans by garnishing our wages. And a lot of conservatives are really happy about that. They're saying, oh, thank God, all these freeloaders are going to pay back the money that they borrowed. Well, let me tell you something. I didn't borrow a goddamn dime. I was 17 years old. My mother forced me to take out that loan, and if I didn't, she was going to throw me out and make me homeless. So I'm not alone in this. I know that many, many children were put in the same situation, and the solution's simple. We should not have our wages garnished. The boomers should have their goddamn retirement accounts and Social Security checks garnished for forcing college onto us, forcing us to take unsustainable loans. It's just screwed up. Student loan forgiveness is the only ethical choice, and the boomers aren't going to give it to us, so we need to go after their money.
Yes, that's right. Let's now just take from the old, because who cares about them, right? Let's blame our family. I have no doubt there are some people who have legitimate gripes against their families for forcing them, quoting you, to getting these loans so that they could go to college. You, that is. You were 17 according to you when you took these loans, which means you weren't an adult. If true, of course there is a conversation that can be had there. Reality is, you're paying the loan is in your name. Seeking to blame but never seeking to solve is very typical of this current generation. You have the loans, the onus is on you. I'm not going to have much pity for somebody who blames his mother. You can have all the reasons you want in your own little neurotic mind, but the fact is those are in your name. And that debt should never be forgiven, because then who pays for that? Oh, that's right, you have to borrow more money to account for it. This level of stupidity is quite impressive.
My credit score just dropped 150 points. Yay, love that for me. And not only that, but I am now in debt to the U.S. Department of Education. Oh wait, I'm sorry, that was dissolved. I am now in debt to the SBA. That's the Small Business Administration. Don't that sound crazy as I'm in debt to them a whopping $27,554.24.
Well, then you should definitely seek to pay that back at the earliest possible convenience so as to limit the amount of interest you pay on it, and of course, having your wages garnished. A payment plan may well be beneficial. Some people get used to a level of convenience and quality of life. I grew up on tins of meat that had a key to get into. You should consider those. Food lasts forever. It really does. Not everything's about boba tea.
This whole student loan thing is not going to work out how Trump thinks it is. It's going to end in a class action lawsuit with him losing. You can't just take a loan and change the inner workings of it and put it right back on the person and say, okay, now you owe 5 times as much as what you signed up for. That's not how it works. That's illegal. It's going to end with a big win for all the borrowers because those student loans are going to end up being forgiven because he's taking illegal activity on them. MAGA, feel free to come in my comments and tell me I'm wrong since none of you have student loans because none of you went to college.
Okay, a couple points of interest. Firstly, it's not much of a dab on somebody to tell them they didn't go to college, because you don't really need to go to college these days to succeed in life. You really don't. Or university for us over here in the UK. Second, it's all well and good asserting that the courts will back you and blah blah blah, but until that has happened, you are only asserting. Without anything concrete to back it up, you're just looking very arrogant and full of yourself, which I kind of expect at this point. When reality does strike, and hypothetically say Trump does get this moving in a direction that is unfavourable to you, I fully expect you to cope and seethe and mold.
That keep saying, why should my tax dollars pay for other people's student loans?
It's a legitimate question.
1, go f yourself.
You certainly didn't learn any manners in college.
If your tax dollars did pay for student loans, it's because you're investing in society as a whole.
I'd rather the money just fix the potholes in my road, please.
Rising tide lifts all boats. The smarter that people are, the better off all of us are.
You should ask for a refund on your tuition.
Is it weird that I went to university, I paid my loans off, I didn't use my degrees, I went into something else because of the recession that hit our country. The businesses I was meant to work in didn't happen, it's quite alright, I'm now self-employed. Is it strange though that I went through all of that and I agree with the gentleman, the priority should be to fix what is broken and also, fix what is broken. And I also think that I don't agree with the sentiment that you rise or raise society by having everyone go to college or university. It doesn't work like that. I promise you it doesn't. It's a very small number of a very small number who actually have the ability to do it. We know you're not one of them because you're on TikTok.
I'm not paying my student loans.
The government keeps threatening all these things they're going to do to people if they don't pay their student loans. I don't think they realize we don't care. We don't have enough to care. We don't care about credit scores anymore. We don't care if you siphon our paychecks. We're just going to quit and move on to the next company because that company was probably going to fire us anyway.
I love that you are so privileged that you think you're going to be able to simply go from company to company without any negative fallback or blowback, because invariably and eventually you will be caught up with. You may not care about your credit score, but that's only because you've got immense privilege that gives you that right to be able to not care so much about it anymore. I can see that car vanishing in your future. I'm going to state verbatim that if you took out a loan, it should never be forgiven. You should always be responsible for your finances. If you cannot be, then you should never have taken it out in the first place. If that means you didn't get to go to college, then so bloody well be it. The responsibility is yours. You chose that future for yourself, and you must pay what you owe. The federal government is seeking to find a way right now to reduce waste and debt. It may well succeed, it may well fail. The only way to be sure is if people actually do their part. It is not the burden, or nor should it be the burden, of the rest of society to give you a free ride, so you can live a better life than many others who struggle, who didn't get to go to college. You are not better than everyone else. That's the point. I'll play one more video before we finish.
I'm gonna keep posting about this all day because this is I went and logged into my federal loan account and this is what I found. I graduated in 2011 with $46,000 in student loan debt. My loan debt is now almost $90,000. In that time, I've been a social worker that has made income-based repayments on my loan for years, and that has almost doubled. You wanna know why people are pissed off about their student loans? It's not because we can't get anyone else to pay them for us. It is because you have set it up where we can never pay them off ourselves.
I'm going to restate something I said earlier about predatory systems. Yeah, America's built on them. If you didn't pay enough attention to what you were getting a loan for in the first place, and what the rates were, the interest payments, then this was always going to happen. Always. It's why if you want to get far in life, you have to shoot for a bigger job, a bigger occupation, something much larger than just the degree itself. It's not just about the education, it's what you do with it afterwards. You have to have the right mindset. It's why I said only a very small amount of people, from a very small group of people, actually amount to anything. You can say all but fluke, I don't know, who you know, blah blah blah, insert some random thing about being lucky here. But reality is, the vast majority of those who took out those loans didn't pay attention and are now paying the price for it. I do feel some pity for those who do have to go through this, 100% I do. But it does not change. You and everyone else must pay. You took the loans out. The onus is on you. If you'd like to blame somebody, go ahead. Blame Trump if you like. Blame anyone before. Blame the person who set the rates that you signed for in the first place if you like. But I doubt you will. I think you'll just blame Trump like everyone else is trying to. Only blaming and not resolving will only ever have you wallow in misery. Good luck, I guess. With student loan debt, I've noticed there's an increase of people who take very little patience towards those who are crying about it. If you're one of them, let me know in the comments. If you're not, also let me know in the comments. Because we English, again, have a different system. Ours are nowhere near as brutal as yours. But our country is a lot smaller, it's easier to regulate. Yours, if they're federal, completely different to any other state loan people might have. Again, if it's a predatory system, you're always going to struggle. But do let me know in the comments down below. Smash the like, share the video, get the views up because I need the attention, blah blah blah. Ta-ta everyone.